ezaali mu Kenya eza financial bill bamu baali bana Uganda. Now, for Ugandan soldiers to take part in silencing dissenting voices in Kenya, it doesn't come by mistake. Wabeerawo an agreement ebeera ekoleddwa abakulembeze. Kiba kitegeeza mubeera muyina enzikiriziganya zammwe nti okay, tukole kino. Mulaba Ruto ya congratulating Zedda Museveni. Buli kimu ekyabaddewo nga wakirabye. Ye Ruto ya mu congratulating Zedda. Ekiri Tanzania kyo siina kikubuulira, wakyerabirako n'amaaso, nange wannajja n'embikola ki? Nange wannajja n'embikunyumiza n'obitegeera bulungi nnyo. Tegeera bulungi. So, President Guno nakugamba nti no, the Uganda election offered a choice between two vastly different futures. One represented continuity in the form of the 81-year-old incumbent Yoweri Museveni, who seized power 40 years ago. You need to correct this, not 80-year-old. The guy is around 90 to 93. Yeah, just go and watch the recent interview the guy had with Sky News. The face alone tells it. So, the article continues to say, the other choice was for change, represented by the 43-year-old Bobi Wine, the popular name of the pop star turned politician Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. His campaign braved shootings, continuous intimidation, tear gas, and water cannons, detentions, beatings, and systematic interference in attempts to garner support and deliver a message. There is a clear empirical correlation between the state of democracy in Africa and the prospects for economic growth. This explains why Uganda's authoritarian past has blighted its ability to deliver to its burgeoning numbers of young people. Of course, you know that half our population is below the age of anyway, actually they go ahead to say that more than 85% of today's 50 million Ugandans are under the age of 25. With the population expected to reach 85 million by year 2050. Yet, the per capita income of Ugandans is less than $990, or just 62% of the African average. The election itself followed a typical authoritarian playbook, with state action against opponents in the run-up to voting, the internet being switched off the previous day, reducing the ability of activists to independently tally votes and report from the more than 50,000 polling stations countrywide, and to expose fraud and violence on social media. As Wine put it, the election was held in the dark. Now, this is powerful, man. It describes exactly what happened. Akugambye nti the election itself followed a typical authoritarian playbook, with the state action against opponents in the run-up to voting, the internet being switched off the previous day, reducing the ability of activists to independently tally votes and report from the more than 50,000 polling stations countrywide, and to expose fraud and violence on social media. As Bobi Wine put it, the election was held in the dark. As if to illustrate this, when tallying got underway, he was placed under house arrest. His electricity was switched off and his house was padlocked. You don't do this as a government if you are secure in your victory. Such tactics were also adopted in the 2021 election, and in 2016, Museveni's forces simply arrested the challenger, Dr. Kizza Besigye, on the day of the election. He was arrested again in 2024 and is facing ridiculous treason charges before a military court. Now, Bobi Wine is reported as having escaped house arrest and is on the run. The state of international relations offered a repressive tailwind to the Ugandan regime, with the destruction of events from Venezuela to Greenland. Before the election, Museveni even found time to taunt the prowess of the US military. Uganda has long created Western strategic dependencies. Two, through Kampala's military involvement in Sudan, Somalia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. African agencies routinely genuflect to closing ranks around incumbents at the expense of African citizens. International organizations may be less callous, but cynically repeatedly express their concern through a set of well-meaning but hopelessly inadequate statements, ranging from being very concerned to deeply disturbed. The international community has only itself to blame for the popularity of the authoritarian election playbook. In 2016, the Commonwealth Observer team said of Uganda's process that it once again fell short of meeting key democratic benchmarks. The warnings have been consistently there, but have not been a priority for policy makers. And of course, that is it, because just like they put it, this is not the first time this is happening, only that it just gets worse each and every election. Yet democracy has an inestimable value. In my home country of Botswana,
democracy has lived up to its promise, with the electoral accountability getting rid of failed leaders when this has been necessary. Not so for Uganda. Instead of working as an agent of renewal and hope, Ugandans have to put up with elections in which Museveni
callously clings onto power so as to hand over to his bloodthirsty son, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba. Infamous for his tweet storms threatening violence on his father's political opponents, he's also a fan of autocrats at large, tweeting that President Putin does not have to threaten nuclear war. We hear him. An attack on Russia is an attack on Africa. There are two notable election monitoring missions in Uganda, one run by the East African Community, the other by the African Union, in conjunction with other regional bodies. Both have so far been silent. The Commonwealth, of which Uganda is a member, failed this time to send a mission presumably precisely because it knew the election would be contested to the point of violence. Africans and their partners should call out the African Union, its affiliates, and all those African leaders who claim to represent democracy and stand for human rights to pronounce their stance on the violation of the conduct of credible elections. Without motive and follow through by international actors, Africans are doomed to be treated as third-class citizens by the ruling elites and their supporters. As the military clamps down on ordinary Ugandans desperate for a political voice and a choice for change, you have been warned of the bloody consequences. Silence translates into complicity in the vote rigging and the brutalization of opponents on the continent, as it did with the Tanzanian elections. Such silence only entrenches and fuels dictatorships and the decline in democracy. Nagisembya era nakuterako Serese Kama Ian is the former president of Botswana and a member of the Platform for African Democrats. Now, artisti eyo nayo update njibawadde bulungi nnyo era nga eno ye Platform for African Democrats kosobola okusanga obubaka obw'enjawulo bungi nnyo. Gendayo obeere nga osangayo ne message ya president waffe nga bw'ogirengerawo. Ono ali buli wamu, gwe ky'olina okumanya ali buli wamu. Kitegera kyobalaba nga abakulembeze nga bano ab'ensi ez'enjawulo batunulira ebigenda mu maaso. Kati guno mukutu naye gwerengera aguliko, omulengera aguliko, olaba kyekyo kiki kyolabaawo. Anyway, eyo update nayo nje bawadde ndowooza katugende ku nsonga ya Bannakenya bano, the Pan-Africans abavuddeyo ne bateekawo ekibuli kyadde ky'amaanyi nnyo. Obubaka bwabwe nabwo bwabadde bulungi. Obubaka bwabwe bwabadde bulungi nnyo nabwagadde nnyo. Naye nga away from that, gwe kyolina okumanya nti no streets zikyali bwezityo ya zikyali bwezityo nga bwozirengera nyinza okulaga koko wano ku naye nga sinaba kweyongerayo nnyo mbeera njagala nnyo nenkujjukiza obubaka wa pulezidenti waffe yakimanyirawo era n'akutegeeza nti lino ebbanga erisigadde nga sinakutwala ku bannakenya bano sooka olira obubaka buno wadde wabuwulira naye njagala oddemu obuwulire.
All of you fellow Ugandans and friends of Uganda all over the world, my name is Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, together with my wife Babe, and we have just finished casting our ballot. We've played our part, we've accomplished our civil duty. We are glad where we voted from. There was a huge turn-up, and we pray the turn-up is going to be equally big all over the country. The coming hours and the coming days are clearly not going to be easy, with the military taking over the election, with our agents being arrested all over the country, especially in northern and western Uganda, with soldiers, military officers taking over as presiding officers on polling stations throughout Entebbe and many other districts. We know that people are going to vote massively, and people are voting for change, but we also know that there's an effort to rig the election. The rest of the matters are in your hands, fellow Ugandans. We know that even in the coming hours, we might be under house arrest, but we've told you incessantly for the last 3 months and 2 weeks that everybody can be a leader, everybody can be a Kyagulanyi. Don't allow them to untwist you just because they arrest your leaders. You can take charge, because everybody equally wants change. Wish you a happy new year. Wish you a happy new Uganda. All of you fellow Ugandans and friends
Alright. Njagadde okukubira ka video ako, mbeera njagala nnyo nenkujjukiza nti yakugamba the rest of the matters ziri ku ggwe munna Uganda. Naye kansooke nkubuuza ekibuuzo, president waffe okyayagala akugamba ki? Just nkubuuza kale bubuuzo, owulira okyayagala akugamba ki? Just nkubuuza mbubuuza, sooka weefumitirizeemu kale. Owulira kiki ky'oyagala kale akugambe? Gwe kyolina okumanya tanaba kugwa mu maanyi, ali steady, ali solid, ali omuwulire engeri gy'ayogeramu ya video eri gyenkubidde ginasoose gwe yagisubiddwa already gyeri ku platform eno. Owulira oyagala akugambe ki?
Nsiriikiriddemu just weebuuzeemu ekibuuzo ekyo. Olowooza si ke kaseera pulezidenti ono tumusaluutinge, tumwebaze okubeera nga ataddewo embeera. Obadde okimanyi nti social media yonna tekyaliko because of
omwami oyo ali ku screen. Obadde okimanyi nti nno buli kimu ekigenda mu maaso mu Uganda abantu abasinga bakitunulidde butunuulizi. Abasajja abakulu abalina zi PhDs abawoza mbu baagala nnyo Uganda, naye obadde okimanyi nti n'embeera eno bagitunulidde butunuulizi. Musajja ali omu bw'ati Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert ye yavaayo ne yeŋŋanga embeera eno, era kati ali on the run. Because yavaayo ne yeŋŋanga embeera eno, eyo gy'olaba ku screen eyo ogirengera. Awo boola bali mu kugyayo ze flag, bali mu kuzigyayo ze umbrella. Gwe gy'otandika olutalo ddokola n'ebifaananyi bya president bagenda babijjayo. Baabo screen video eyo ku screen. Baabo. So that is the situation. Anyway, I'm about to wind up, but before I do so, uh, yeah, before I do so, I want to take you to Kenya. Uh, our comrades today had a press conference, and this is the message that they gave. I want you to pay attention to this message. I want you to pay attention to this message.
The premeditated power grab and a military was not an election. It was a premeditated power grab and a military coup against the sovereignty of the Ugandan people. Superintended for the benefit of dictator Yoweri Museveni, who grabbed power by the gun and so despises democracy that he once famously stated that he cannot be removed by a mere piece of paper. On January 15th, he transformed disdain for the people's will, as spelt out in the Ugandan constitution, into a criminal enterprise by using the ballot as a smokescreen to continue his brutal military occupation and family cabal. The 71.61% algorithm, a manufactured fiction. The announced results are the product of centralized forgery. We present the following evidence of a predetermined outcome. The impossible register. The Electoral Commission, EC, inflated the National Voter Register to 21.6 million voters to match the National Resistance Movement's NRM fabrications, with the ruling party having claimed earlier that it had a membership of 20.1 million. By this claim, the NRM membership register grew by over 100% from the 8 million members that were known as of the 2021 elections. This kind of growth is not only statistically impossible, but also grossly fraudulent. Independents by civil society groups and political parties confirm that the Electoral Commission register is poisoned with duplicates, some people appearing over 50 times to match up with the NRM register fraud. In other cases, biodata of deceased persons, minors, and ghosts, people totally unknown, were identified. The preset target. After shifting his narrative in late 2025 to claim 2.7 million votes were stolen from him, Museveni, in 2021, Museveni deployed an algorithm designed to hit a 70+% threshold. This was a coronation by calculation, not a count. In early 2025, Museveni claimed that Bobi Wine had robbed him of 1 million votes in the 2021 election. At the peak of the campaigns in November 2025, he increased his claim to 2.7 million votes. In 2021, Yoweri Museveni claimed 6,042,898, while Bobi Wine was given 3,631,437 votes was given. Here, Museveni gave himself a margin of 2.4 million votes. In the 2026 elections, Yoweri Museveni claimed 7,946,772 votes against Bobi Wine's 2,741,238 votes. The margin this time around is 5.2 million votes. The difference between the two margins of 2.4 million in 2021 and 5.2 million in 2026 is 2.7 million, the exact figure which Museveni says he was robbed of in the last elections. This can only be possible by a special algorithm of a predetermined result. A chorus of threats. And then you're next. From General Muhoozi Kainerugaba's tweets vowing to crush opposition, to the parliamentary rhetoric of his Patriotic League of Uganda PLU group, members like David Kabanda, Minister Balam Barugahara, and NRM regime leaders like Speaker Anita Among and Deputy Speaker Thomas Tayebwa, among others, the regime said months ago that the result was decided before the first vote was cast, similar to previous and regional elections.
My name is Irene Soila from the Kenya Human Rights Commission. I proceed from where Monasi has left. Totalitarian tactics, darkness and blood, digital darkness. The nationwide internet shutdown was a strategic blackout to facilitate industrial scale ballot stuffing in favor of Museveni, enforced disappearances, arbitrary arrests, and detentions of the citizenry, as well as the opposition supporters and leaders. We have overwhelming evidence of Electoral Commission, EC officials, security forces, and the Ghetto Brigade militia critiquing ballots in favor of Museveni while the world was blinded. Systemic terror at polling centers and the decapitation of oversight. The sanctity of the ballot box was desecrated through a coordinated campaign of state-sponsored terror aimed at opposing agents and independent observers. In a blatant display of electoral fraud, agents of the National Unity Platform, NUP, were systematically chased away from polling stations prior to voting or abducted immediately after to prevent them from witnessing the tallying process. We condemn the lawless falsification of declaration of results forms and the only primary evidence of the people's will, which were violently stolen from agents by security operatives. The intimidation extended to the voters themselves. In districts like Mitiana and Butambala, citizens were scattered from their designated polling stations by force to facilitate full-scale daylight ballot stuffing by placing Robert Changulai, Bobi Wine under house arrest and abducting key supervisors like NUP Electoral Commission Chair John Sebufu and other NUP coordinators and vice presidents. The regime ensured that the counting process was a one-sided, fraudulent exercise conducted in total darkness. The unprecedented and illegal militarization of the democratic process. We witnessed a chilling transition from a civilian election to a total military occupation, masterminded by a family cabal. The involvement of the Ugandan People's Defense Forces, UPDF, and special security units were beyond security and moved into active criminal interference, violating both Ugandan and international human rights laws. This militarization was characterized by a wave of high-profile arrests and enforced disappearances, including the arrest of NUP Vice President Honorable Lina Zedriga from her home in Gayaza, the abduction of Honorable Bright Muhuza, Barara South candidate, and Jacqueline Tukamushabe. The January 15, 2026 exercise was not an election. It was a military operation designed to bypass the biometric voter verification kits, which were deliberately sabotaged despite costing billions to allow the Electoral Commission to announce results at the National Tallying Center that bore no resemblance of the actual declaration of results forms from the ground. The high cost of the ballot. This electoral coup is stained by the blood of over 50 citizens. We specifically condemn the January 16 massacre of 10 people murdered during a military raid on the home of NUP Vice President, Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi, in Butambala, and many others that lost their lives across the country, bringing to the total to almost 50 out of this election so far, while over 1,000 Ugandans either illegally detained or missing as a result of enforced disappearances. The Ghetto Brigade militia.
This militia group, whose official name is Ghetto Structures, reports to Museveni as their commander-in-chief.
The direct leaders of this illegal outfit are Major Emmanuel Kutesa and Chris Damulira. On several occasions, they beat up and robbed people who did not support Museveni or who carried Ugandan flags as a symbol of patriotism and resistance against autocratic rule. They also stole declaration of results, forms, and terrorized voters. The modus operandi was akin to the State Research Bureau under dictator Idi Amin, notorious for brutal repressions.
Thank you. I'm Cornelius Odur, the Deputy Executive Director, Kenya Human Rights Commission. We take note of the regional complicity and we are calling out the African Union and the East African community.
A shameful betrayal of the African Charter on democracy, elections and governance. To the African Union Commission, your January 17th statement congratulating Yoweri Museveni just premature. It is a profound betrayal of the African Charter on democracy, elections and governance. By endorsing a declared result of 71.61%, while the nation was plunged into a total digital blackout, and Robert Kangulani, Bobi Wine's family, remained under illegal house arrest. The EU has signaled that it values the survival of autocrats over the lives of African citizens. You have chosen to ignore the documented abduction of NUP leaders, the nomination of candidates, the torture of activists, and the killing of citizens, effectively endorsing a crime scene as a democratic exercise. The AU's complacency today sets a dangerous precedent, suggesting that the Africa we want is one where sovereignty is stolen at the barrel of a gun, while continental body looks the other way. To the East African community, complicity in the whitewashing of terror. To the East African Community Election Observation Mission, we condemn your utter failure to uphold the values of the East African Community Treaty. Your preliminary findings are a sanitized whitewashing of a military occupation that bears no resemblance to the terror witnessed on the ground. By failing to report the brutal late-night raid and massacre in Butambala, the disappearance of local observers, and the blatant daylight ballot stuffing in locations like Mitiana, you have abandoned your mandate as a regional guardian of democracy. We demand an immediate retraction of your report. The people of East Africa deserve a community that stands for truth, not one that serves as a public relations firm for family cabal.
So I am Cyprian Nyamwamu, the convener of Kenya Bora Twitakayo, and I will read the last part on the urgent call to action demanding justice and restoration. And we are doing this as the Pan-African Coalition. We demand an immediate end to the state's war against its citizens and their defenders in Uganda. To the ruling Museveni family and the NRM regime, we demand for the release of all political prisoners. And this we demand the immediate and unconditional release of all the prisoners, activists and abductees. Political detainees on the length remands must be brought to court or unconditionally released. The state must cease the illegal or arbitrary detention of opposition leaders and their supporters. We call for the reinstatement of all NGOs and the stopping of harassment of the media. We demand the immediate retraction of all the illegal suspensions of NGOs, tens of them actually, targeted by the NGO Bureau in Uganda. The weaponization of regulatory bodies to decapitate civil society oversight must end now. We also demand an immediate halt to the harassment, surveillance, and intimidation of CSOs, activists, the media, and the political opposition. The press must be allowed to report without the threat of closure or physical violence. The Ghetto Brigade militia. We demand the immediate disbandment of the Ghetto Brigade and the arrest of its leaders, such as Army officers Major Emmanuel Kutesa and Chris. To the international community, solidarity without sanctions is merely complicity. We demand the immediate imposition of global travel bans and asset freezes against the architects of this electoral fraud and the heads of the security agencies overseeing this state-sponsored repression, including all the members of the Museveni family cabal, who are spread all over the world, and they are all known. The world must stop subsidizing a dictatorship that uses the tools of democracy to dismantle it and to mock it, actually. To our comrades and compatriots, the people of Uganda, we today, as the Pan-African group, urge you not to lose heart in your struggle for freedom, dignity, and progress. Your resolve to break free from decades of military dictatorship and family rule is just and necessary, and you are at the dawn of breaking through. The sovereignty of Uganda belongs to its citizens, not to a cabal. Stay steadfast in your pursuit of a nation governed by the will of the people rather than the power of the gun. To our fellow Africans, Ugandans, not the Museveni family's military regime, need your urgent support in this dark hour for continental democracy. We call on you to stand with the Ugandan people in their continued push for liberty, dignity, and a system of governance underpinned by the rule of law. African problems require African solidarity that prioritizes the people over the protection of dictators. We must recognize that the erosion of democracy in one nation threatens us all. If we do not act now, we are the next victims. Dictators collaborate to refine their methods of repression. Africans must also join hands to resist and dismantle autocracy across our borders. The fight for freedom in Kampala is a fight for the future of our continent, and you know that Tanzania is unfinished business. A few months ago we were here talking about Tanzania. It is unfinished business, and the solidarity has to continue to strengthen for the sake of liberating all of Africa. In conclusion, the regime, the Museveni family military regime, believes that hacking the internet, arresting civic actors, and deploying a militarized electoral coup against the citizens of Uganda, they can control the narrative. They are wrong. You cannot hide the heartbeat of a nation that has decided to be free like Uganda. The struggle for the January victory has only just begun. Whether they detain opposition leaders or they abduct more of them, the people shall win, because a people united can never be defeated. Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. Ndowooza bannange obubaka obwo mubufunye bulungi. Let me hope you guys have managed to listen into human rights groups, groups that fight for equal rights and justice all the way from Kenya. Of course, they have teamed up It's not actually one group. They are different groups. Yeah, they've teamed up and they've issued their take on the situation back in Uganda. They've condemned the African Union's statement. Let me actually take you through what African Union said. Take a look at the screen. Now, this is what African Union wrote. Information and Communication Directorate. They released this on the 17th of January, just a few days ago. It was on Saturday. Yeah, it was on Saturday. Chairperson of African Union Commission commends the conduct of elections in Uganda and congratulates Museveni on re-election. Now, you really wonder, the chairperson of African Union Commission, His Excellency Mohamed Ali Joseph, commends the conduct of elections in Uganda and congratulates Museveni on his election. 71% of Pulira sina na manyi gabisoma. The chairperson expresses sincere appreciation to His Excellency Goodluck Jonathan, former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for his sterling leadership of the Joint African Union, Common Market of East Africa and Southern Africa, COMESA, Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, Election Observer Mission to Uganda. The chairperson further reiterates the commitment of the African Union Commission to continue to support the promotion of democracy. Which kind of democracy are you guys promoting? You are promoting authoritarianism. You are supporting. You are promoting dictatorship. You are promoting autocracy. And effective governance in the continent while applauding the people of Uganda. Don't applaud us, you guys. Go applaud your. Let me even stop there. Anyway, it's just annoying because of all the things that are happening in this our country, Uganda. Then you hear such kind of organizations that would be the guiding lights of this continent writing trash. Now, I commend my brothers and sisters all the way from Kenya. Salutations, comrades. Tuchali gumite, tuchali bagumu nyonyonyo. However much bamu bagwamu kumanyi here and there, yeah, but we are still pushing on. Yes, the streets are still like this. Yeah, streets zichali zo wezityo. Streets zichali wezityo. Zaidi wamu.
Ana huyo bamu. Ati bamu gobira ati. Tunda ku. Ha awuni. Anake. Anange banaye ejoniyo niyo kutwala kitalia direct bakunyigireyo wansi mukagumu je muteke ebigere nga babinyiga sinikeyo wansi ne bakulinya nako bavuddeko bavuddeko
oyo ne batta
nagente ndibayinza kutamutwala bagenda mutwala bamukutte oyo
anyway. Yeah, gwe kyolina okumanya streets zikyali militarized. Ekyo njagadde artist obeere ng'okitegeera bulungi nnyo. Muhoozi avudde era ne yeewaana nga bwe baakatta aba NUP 22 era bakyatta nnyo. Naye maani ya kankulage ku byawandiise era naye of course kututeekamu katengo gwe kyolina okumanya. Yeah, kankusharingireko ko wano ya obeere nga oli in the know. Njagala oteeka amaaso go ku screen. Bino kambiteeke buteesaawo ku screen. Yeah, there we are. Now, that came out a few akugamba wano, the first thing I will remove from Kabobi are his balls. We will kill on sight all NUP so-called foot soldiers until Muzeyi says otherwise. We will we have killed 22 NUP terrorists since last week. I'm praying the 3rd is Kabobi, the 23rd is Kabobi. I am Hose Kainerugaba. I'm a prophet of Almighty God. I exonerate my great and the venerable father from what I'm going to do to Kabobi. As for Kabobi, the permanent rules, I'm giving him exactly 48 hours to surrender himself to the police. If he doesn't, he will treat him as an outlaw rebel and handle him accordingly. I fear no one on this planet because my bloodline is from Jesus Christ. My ancestors, the Baches, are the only descendants of Christ. Well, nonsense. Anyway, don't take that lightly, because that's why you see all this happening. You get, these guys are monsters. Yeah, that's what you see. If a CDF comes out with that kind of a language, what do you expect the policemen to do? What do you expect these guys to do if a CDF speaks of that language? What do you expect of these two? That's why the lawlessness is too high. That's how dead this country is. Yensonga lwaki tuyina okwekolamu mulimu ng'abana Uganda tuveyo tugambe ekimala kimala. By the way, on a serious note, bino byonna tebigenda kuggwawo. Gwe wena ali eyo ng'osuubira nti no maybe wagenda kubeerawo miracle nti oba wabeerewo ebikyuka. Muganda wange tewana kimu kigenda kukyuka singa tuba situwekoze emulimu, especially mu kaseera kano nga tension ekyali y'amaanyi nnyo. Kukyona okumanya tension y'amaanyi. By the way, ne mobile money tebana bazizaako. As of now, you can only send, receive, you cannot withdraw. You can only use it to buy airtime. If you want to buy something, you send the person directly on their account via mobile money. But withdrawing, the service is still unavailable. The service is still unavailable. Tebana bakuza ku mobile money. Then esente nyinyi zosobola osindika oba mitwalo oba 3 oba mitwalo 5, one of the two. Tosikyasobola kusindika kakadde kalumu, tosobola n'obeera ofa otya. Tosobola. Gwe nawe ali tosobola. Balowooza nti nno mmwe bannayuganda abali ebweru mugenda sindika sente nyingi nnyo ziyambeko mu ku strategizinga wano. Embeera tenebatterera. By the way, kyolina okumanya poliisi eri mu kwegayiriza bantu baddemu bakole. Poliisi eri mu kwegayirira bwegayiriza bantu mu babbagulwa maduuka. Ndabira shoka awo ng'ayogera mbu simanyi abantu balina okukomawo ku mirimu gyabwe, simanyi biki. Why are the streets all militarized? Lwaki embeera eri bweti nga bweri? You know, lengera gwe enguudo zonna buli motoka bagikebera, buli motoka ne bakusangane. You know, that is the situation. Why? Because they know akaluba akabbye nnyo bakabye nnyo kabalemerawo. Kati mpozi n'ekirala tebalina declaration forms bye balangiridde tebigatta yadde n'omulundi n'ogumu. Anyway, owulidde obubaka okuva mu baganda bafe ab'e Kenya bo badde bafollowinga bulungi nga bagenda banootinga bakubulidde lwaki they were premeditated results. Yeah. Nenga banange munzikirize olunaku olwaliro nkome wano tujja kuba tuddamu olunaku maybe nzo ku olwencha oba after tomorrow. I'll communicate for those in our WhatsApp group. I'll be communicating okulaba nti nzija okubatuusaako obubaka obwenjawulo. Naye nga otunulira ekiwandiiko wano okuva mu MTN oyinza okulowooza nti ajje byolimba. Banange nze ku platform yange eno mbeera saagala kukola ki, saagala bbawa mawulire gatali matuufu, mbeera ntya nnyo kubamba w'ekitiibwa bantu mmwe. Yes, mbeera njagala nembawo ekintu nange kyenkola ki, nange ekintu kyembeera nyinako obukakafu. Kati bw'otunuulira awo MTN ebadde yina gweddamu. Yes, MTN ebadde yina gweddamu just 42 minutes ago. Yiyo screenshot eno wenjifunidde wadde nti gwebadde ddamu yadde ya postinze 13 hours ago. Kiba kitegeeza olunaku lwadde lwajjo yamubuuza bannange Kasingura Ezra yabbanange MTN kiki. I don't know whether you guys seeing my screen. All right, yeah, you can see. Yamubuuziza bannange MTN kiki chichaganye. Here we no longer work, we mobile money operators think about us too. Mobile money ne mudamu, I mean MTN Uganda ne mudamu ne mugamba, hi Ezra, apologies for the inconvenience. Please note that mobile money restrictions are still in place in accordance with Bank of Uganda guidelines. We will keep you informed once the restrictions are lifted. MTN both. Ndozo kitegede bulungi. Byebyo kyekimu ne ku Airtel, ate ku Airtel yo bakulagirawo wali in bracket ogenda ku withdraw service not available. Lwaki omusajja golengere mabega ku screen yange wano. Yoyo kati nsongola kinkubuuza okyayagala akugambe kimazima ddala president wa foyo kyamwagaza ki? Nenga mbadde balabi balungi okujjako nga waliwo ayina ekibuuzo kyabuuza nsobodde artist okujja nsharingeko nammwe biki ebigenda mu maaso n'okubawa ku bubaka obw'enjawulo ne video ntera bakolerayo video mbasiri live ne mbakolerayo ku video ku ebyo ebiba biriwo nenziba uploading nga size live ezo nazo oyitanga wano ku platform. Beera nkukubiriza nti turn on your notification alerts wobanga subscribing ku mukutu guno beere nga to missing out. Kiba kyamakulu nnyo okubeera nga gwaba asoose okufuna okubeera notified wembeera nga nyina anything kyembeera ntaddeyo ku mukutu guno. Then n'ekirala okwata obubaka buno naawe n'obwongezaayo ku platforms endala era nakyo kiba kiyamba abantu ababiira ku platforms endala nabo babeera bamanya ki ekiba kigenda mu maaso. Yes, ninga mubali nnyo pushinga message, mubali nnyo sharinga message. Nabadde nataddeyo polo wano nga mbasaba okusharinga message eno. Okay, bantu 15 so seba abantu 15% bagambye nedda. 88%, 85% ne bagamba ye. All right. Obunyampi bubeerawo ko wano sebo nga no umanyina bubeera board obunyampi. Afraid agambe JB, I have a question. Yes, buuza. Comment section injirimu nnyo kati. Comment section injirimu nnyo kati. Comment section injirimu nadde ngambye okutama simu naye obudde ndaba bungenzeeko. Nadde ngambye okutama simu tuwayeemu twogeremuko naye maybe kijja kubeera nga JB Sentamu webale nnyo naawe. Thank you so much JB. Most welcome. Yes, Nakandi Jalia, good night. JB, good night too. Joseph Agambi, I want to join. You want to join what? You want to join what? You want to join what? Miss Grateful Kenya, I have friends. Thanks Kabrazo tuweleza kale nawe wale kusima. Okay. Nantume Aisha JB tusime empeerezaayo mukwano webale nnyo kusiima. JB, what can we do to get the fear out of Ugandans and defeat this regime? Ekyo kibuuzo tujja kiddamu ffenna wano ku live. Kibuuzo kinene. Kinene. Kibuuzo kinene. JB abantu Baba Wambi. Yes, abantu of course Baba Wambi. Yes, there is, and the hunt is still ongoing. Nenga gwe choino kumanya abana be mukono bataddewo embeera yadde y'amaanyi nnyo. Mirade yamanyi nnyo. Oh, Joseph oyagala joininga WhatsApp. Munange abaana WhatsApp bagijoininga mu bwangu obw'ekitalo, link ne bagi disabling. So as of now, I cannot share the link. Okay. Banange waliwo ekintu kye mbadde nderabidde. Ate no kyamakulu nnyo. Kino kigenda eri ku buli muntu yenna yina bambi asobola okubeerako n'obuyambi bwatuusaako ku baganda baffe abamu. Waliwo ebintu bye sitasobola kwogera wano, naye obeera ng'osobola okuntuukirira personally, ennamba yange yiyo 07 waliwo ani abadde abuuza wano Ken Prudence adaabuuza JB number for support. Enamba yange eri 0764377776. Yes, enamba yange yeyo. Yes, Prudence enamba yange yeyo. Naye then the other thing, Senyonja abuuza kati JB kyekiddako. Nedda banange tulina okugenda mu maaso nga tukola mobilization. It is not yet over. Omukulembeze kenyini akikugambye it is not. Oyagala kungamba nti no kati kiwedde. Nedda. Gwe byonna byolaba bigenda mu maaso okubeera nga ba deployinze ku street bagoba abantu misana kiro, baganda baffe bali makomera kibyo. Lwero olugendo. Ebintu bino ebyokutwala ba dictators tebitera kuba byangu. Naye abalemerako be bamalako gwe kyolina okumanya tebitera kuba byangu. First of all, tulina okubeera nga tuli bangi abavaayo ku highlighting ensonga eno. Kati sooka gwombuulire bantu bameka b'omanyi abakola live streams zino nga zenkola. Baganda baffe bali mu diaspora eyo bayina equipment zonna. Ayinza okugamba nti nno siina budde buli kiseera mbeera ku mulimu. Kati ogibayita sacrifice. Can't you sacrifice some 2-3 hours n'ogamba kansiigire ensi buli kimu ekigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga laffe Uganda? Gwe mbulirayo bameka b'omanyi abaweereza ng'ogyeko nze, ng'ogyeko nga yeekolera, ng'ogyeko lumbuye, ng'ogyeko Ghetto TV, ng'ogyeko abaana babeera ku TikTok ba laptop n'abasigadde abalala. Bameka gwe b'omanyi side eyo? But do you know that we are 49 over actually 50 million Ugandans? So we need to all get involved. Nenga to losing a hope. Okitegeera, to losing a hope. Engwala zibeeramu. Yes, abantu abasinga ade bamanyi nga 15 wekigwera. Nedda yagala gana kiriza leka kisobola n'okugwa wiiki ejja. N'olunaku olw'enkya lusobola okukya nga waliwo ekibaddewo. Nekikyusa olugero lwonna. Ekikulu kya byonna genda mu maaso nga tumobilizing. Though, let me advise according to the way I say things. Never put a deadline ku revolution. Ekyo tokigezanga n'okikola. Obeera nga oli activist, revolution tebagiteekerako expiry date. Nti ultimatum ya lunaku luno. Nedda. We always keep pushing until olunaku olukola ki. So anga abaana b'omukono bali mu kukola ku making sure nti tubeegattako. Abaana b'eruweero ne tubeegattako. Abaana b'entebe. Gwe kyolina okumanya eggwanga likyali mu tension y'amaanyi. Lwaki? Abantu obusungu bungi. Gwe tomanyi bantu bavuddeyo kulonda Kyagulanyi. Walabyeko ka video nga oli akutte ballot papers ng'ali mu kusoma n'asoma obululu bwa Museveni obusoba mu 2 oba 3 consecutively? No way. Kyagulanyi yekka n'ogende obuvideo bwafubutuse okuva Mbale same thing. Bwafubutuse okuva walabyeyo ka video n'akamu. Anti bagamba Museveni agamba yawangudde n'obululu 7,000,000. Wabuliddeyo muvubuka n'omu kuba half of Uganda's population we are below the age of 17 and the 85% are below the age of 25. Ate that number balonda. So there is a section abalonda kwabo. Walabyeko ka video n'akamu okujjako kano Museveni gye yalondedde nga ate engeri gye balonzeemu naawe kennyini wabirabye balonze webati we balonze. Tunda teeka amaaso ku screen. Webati we balonze. we batyo balonze ndozo olengera engeri gye balonzeemu we batyo balonze kati walabyeyo polling station n'emu olinga ayimiridde ali mu kusoma Museveni buli ka video akafu buli kolaba Kyagulanyi Museveni bamusomayo nga wayiseewo ezidakiika nga 2 Museveni why tayina buwagizi yadde n'akamu yadde so tugende maaso nga tupushinga tugende maaso nga tumobilizinga though underground especially naye ekirala mpozi kyendabye ekyabuzeemu kyekyokubeera nti okwesupportinga kuba njagala nkubulire nti abaana b'emukono bo bataddewo embeera abaana b'e Luweero bataddewo embeera abaana b'ente bataddewo embeera abaana be naye maybe kyensobola nze okwadvisingamu kwesupportinga okwekubira amasimu gwobeera ng'oli Luweero ng'olaba nga embeera etabuse kubirako awa kubirako weekatwe omugambe via direct calls engeri internet gyeri ntekola ki teriiko via direct calls gw'owentebe kubirako weemasako omugambe feno kintu kiri gumite bulungi nnyo mweyo kiri kiti abaana bayiseemu eggaali kwekubira masimu gali direct mujjukire nti nno bakitegeera bulungi nti nno the primary mobilization tool gye tuyina is social media ne bagamba okay tugijjeko abaana beekyotera wabalabye abaana be sides eyo ekaliisizo abaana b'e Luweero wabalabye abaana b'ekyengera wabalabye okwekubira amasimu wenjogerera kati ku ssaawa eno emukono ebimotoka bikyatuddeko gwe sooka weebuuza olowooza lwaki internet tebanda bagizzaako fule social media olowooza lwaki tebanda bagizzaako mobile money olowooza lwaki tebanda bagizzaako olowooza lwaki amagye gakyali ku street gakebera buli mmotoka eyitawo olowooza lwaki amaduuka tegannaba kuggulawo embeera ekyali ya bunkenke tukyali mu muudu eyo ey'okutwala omusajja only that tubulamu kubeera serious tubulamu kubeera serious kyenyinza okugamba ki comment gyenyinza okukola tubulamu okubeera okay mpozi n'ekirala Donald Trump is ready to help us. No, he's not ready. Mpozi n'ensobi endala gye ndaba nze gye sitakkiriziganya nayo. Let me tell you guys. Nze nja kyogera kati. Waliwo baganda bange bendaba ate obuvunaanyizibwa babwejjeeko ng'abana Uganda babutunuuliza bakulembeze ba NUP for example MPs. Abaana abo balinga ensonga zino abaakaziraba obulabi mu 2021 ekintu kino bwe kyali. Guys, let me tell you one thing. The reason as to why actually we are at this point in time, it's because we think that someone else out there is going to do what needs to be done. That someone is not there, it is you. It is you. That is the mistake that we do. We always think that no, there is someone out there who is supposed to do that. There is someone out there who is supposed to go out there on my behalf. No one. It is you. And in most cases, it derails us in a way that, when you push that responsibility from you to someone else, you don't know the shortcomings of that person. You don't know obumanyirivu oba capabilities and the breaking point y'omuntu oyo. Naye gw'omanyi breaking point yo, gw'omanyi nti nno tosobola kuhaginga muti kumala ssaawa mmeka 10 ng'abaganda baffe bali mu Kenya we bakola. Gw'okimanyi tokisobola. Because omanyi you know your potential naye ekizibu kye tukola kwe kupushinga responsibility ku liini gwe nolowooza nti nno liini yagenda okukola ekintu ekyo nolowooza nti nno Fred Kawuma yagenda okukola ekintu ekyo no it is you si Fred Kawuma si J.B. Muwonge saani singa buli omu ayambala responsibility eyo tujja kuvaamu kino mbuyiyi naye gundi oli lwaki gundi oli lwaki ye akusingako siteeke ku Uganda eno nedda takusingako siteeke we all have an equal stake ku nsi yaffe eno Uganda kati kyenyinza okuwabulamu tulekeraawo okwejjako obuvunaanyizibwa okubusiiga abantu abalala kijja tuyambako so twambale obuvunaanyizibwa buno ffenna obuvunaanyizibwa buno tubwambale ffenna tetubupushingayo tetubupushingira bantu balala kuba omuntu oyo gw'obupushingira tomanya breaking point ye tomanya nti noyo banankubamu oluyirumu we wati ajja kuzirika tomanya yo wanaawulira kati waliwo baganda baffe nga ye waawulira sound y'essasi ebyo tebimulya mwana ng'ebyo yabimanyira okitegeera tomunyumiza sound ya ssasi simanyi byatiyagasi era nga banakumbira ajja kukola ki kyokka wabeerewo nakandi ye nga ajjagira bugizi bwati kyokka ate gwe oli mu kugamba nakandi ye abakola kiso yaba nti nno agenda wali so kati ffenna twambala obuvunaanyizibwa nga bannayuganda tugende mu maaso nga tumobilizinga naye obuvunaanyizibwa buli omu abwambale individually kitegeera buli omu obuvunaanyizibwa abwambale individual gwenga gwe kuba we all have an equal stake so gwe muganda nga addambuuza nti nno tuzeeko ki oyinza obeeranga nti nno obeeranga ebigambo bya pulezidenti waffe atakola ki abadde ajja atabiwulira bya pulezidenti waffe yakugambika n'akaseera akasigaddeyo ife tuyina okubeera nga tukimala naye ensembayo nga nkugaba nange toggwamu maanyi olunaku terugeza nerukeera ng'oweddemu amaanyi togeza weekake okusigala ku mulamwa jjukiramu nti nno kali akagambo kenda kugambye nti the road to success is always under construction ojja sanga dead ending olina creating a way ojja sanga road block ng'olina okubaaka engeri gy'ogibuukamu gy'ogiyitako luno olugendo lwolutwembakingako kati embeera eno ey'okulaba nga tetunnaba kwekolamu mulimu guli gwe nnyini nga ogwandibadde tekikumalamu maanyi we are still on course provided tugenda maaso nga we encourage each other tugenda maaso nga twezzaamu amaanyi tugenda maaso nga twejjukiza lwaki twayingira ensonga eno ojja kulabanga spiriti yo egenda ekola ki naye ng'ekikulu kya byonna bannange temwerabira directive ya president waffe ono gw'olaba wano yakugamba ebyo byabakama bye yalangirira just ignore pretend as if kuba gw'omanyi kye walonda omanyi ekyali ku polling station yo omanyi lwaki olina obusungu obwo kubanga mwenna mwalonda Kyagulanyi amagye ne gasalako polling station ne gatwalawo box ne gakola ensasage yonna obimanyi byonna so kati togezaako nodda mu bino mbw ate simanyi president waffe ndowooza akatambi akaliikinze okuva mu electoral commission mwakalabye nga baswapinze buswapinzi results eza Kyagulanyi president waffe ze bwawadde Museveni ezize ate ne baziwa Kyagulanyi nsuubira ka video ako mwakalabye bulungi so gusooka n'obuuza ekibuuzo lwaki oyagala enkyukakyuka anyway kankomaawo naye nga banange togeza olunaku ne lukyanga oweddemu essuubi alright njagala yes gwe wena obanga olina enamba yange nagitaddewo naako mu comment section yes waliwo baganda bafe abeetagisayo ku buyambi bwe sitasobola kukola ki bwe sitasobola kuyisiza wano ku media bwe sitasobola kujja wano kwogera naye gwenze ntuukirira twogere yes ku namba eyo WhatsApp suubira ebibuuzo byonna banange mbizeemu ebibuuzo byonna mbizeemu ebibuuzo byonna mbizeemu naye nga buli kimu ekitambula ekigenda mu maaso mu bitundu ebyenjawulo jjukira nti social media platforms ziri off gwe kyolina okumanya saagala weerabire nti social media platforms ziri off ensasagge egenda mu maaso mu bitundu ebyenjawulo togenda gikola ki togenda giraba ku social media kati gwe genda bugenzi mu maaso ng'okola ki kati bino togenda bisanga ku media bino kano ka video kalero of course enembeera eri bitundu ebyenjawulo togenda gisanga ku media togenda n'obeera ofoote togenda gisanga ku media yeah. Bana abeekalungu bamutadde mu kofini ne bamuteekako ekifaananyi kye wano tuba tuli kalungu njakomawo olw'enkya nze nga bwe mumanyi ngwe ncollectinga information emala mbeera saagala kujja kubawaayo kamu bubiri mbeera njagala ne tumala wano ebbanga eriwera nga mbawo ebintu ebyenjawulo abaana bano ekifaananyi bakitadde upside and down nga kyekikulembedde keesi y'omufu kati olaba ekyo bakikola ku mukulembeze ali ku mutendera gwa member of parliament oba mpuliriza bulungi kano kankoogere mukama olaba bakikola mukulembeze ali ku ddala lya member of parliament olaba kikola ku mukulembeze ali ku ddala lya member of parliament endowooza ekiddako ne sitakyogera anyway mwebale nnyo bambi okubeeranga mu following omukutu guno okubeeranga mufuna buli kimu ekigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga lyaffe Uganda sigenda sukako wantu ujja kuba tuddamu later on naye nga oyitawo wano ku platform mbeera nkuliyetinzeyo videos ez'enjawulo okubeera nga nkusigira ekifaananyi biki ebiba bigenze maaso binnye besitakuwadde anadde ntegese okuba omuvubuka ono bambi gwe baasiba mu 2 ne bamutuusako gw'obuliisa maanyi nga basajja bintu bingi naye nkyakomawo okubeera nga byonna nja kubeera nga mbi compilinga bulungi eyo nayo show ejja kuba ndala naye nga as of now I wish you the best of the night. I wish you the best of the day. I wish you the best of the evening, wherever you are. I know very many of you are in different parts across this planet. Nsibamba gamba nti gwanga laffe ino Uganda buli nsojja kusangayo muna Uganda, n'ogenda e Cambodia, n'ogenda e Iran, n'ogenda e Iraq, n'ogenda wa ojja sangayo muna Uganda. Nga nagambye abantu aba commenting ensi ze balabiramu live video right now, oyinza okwewuunya. Nga nabagambye nti comment which country are you watching from, oyinza okwewuunya. So kati ensi ezimu obudde bwa kumakya, obumu bwa kawungeezi, obumu bwa kiro, obumu bwa misana. So wherever you've tuned in from, abalabira ku zi phablets, ku zi tablet, ku zi smart TVs, ku zi smartphones, wherever you've tuned in from, wherever you are, salutations, peace and love. Nayenga togwamu manyi, togeza n'ogwamu essubi. Lastly but not least, President His Excellency Kyagulanyi akugambye it is not yet over. Katandika butandisi. In brief kyakugambye nti